Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Convener, for having me and other leaders once again on this platform. And I want to also acknowledge the presence of other leaders who are here. When we discuss the Nigerian financial sector and the financial crisis, um, it makes some of us weak because some of our friends who are across the borders currently they are happy because at a time sometimes last week pounds was traded at 1,900 naira to a naira. And at the time too, we had dollars traded at 1,800 naira to 1,750 naira and 780 naira to a naira. So people kept asking, is this the renewed hope or the promises made to Nigerians by the president? And we also felt that the current CBN governor and the leadership of CBN, who have been saddled with the responsibility of managing our economy and most especially managing the financial sector and regulating the activities of the banks and currency fluctuation in the country, are up to the task of putting things in order. But what we've experienced in the last 5 months is invariably counterproductive, is the opposite of our expectation. And now people forget that practically that whatever affects our exchange rates, directly or indirectly, we have the ultimate and resultant effect in the market forces, as affects the poor people and even the Nigerians who do their daily businesses on the streets of our country. But we need to now ask ourselves, in the time past and even recently, CBN have intervened um, by clearing the backlogs of FS transactions by the banks. They've paid the airlines. They've injected so many billions of dollars. Particularly, I heard recently, a sum of $2 billion was recently being injected to clear the backlog of FX transactions by the banks, and at the same time to pay some airlines. The question we just need to ask them is how long are we going to be injecting effect into our economy? Is it a sustainable strategy? Is it a sustainable idea? And I've also said many of our friends too have also questioned that fact, suggested that okay, one of the ways they can regulate the FS exchange rate is for them to allow naira denominated cards to be able to do foreign transactions. Many proposed this idea, but from somebody who have the banking experience and banking background, I know over time that when you use, for example, ABC card to consummate the foreign transactions in dollar, hitherto, your bank will automatically look for FX to settle this merchant either in the US or in the UK in USD or pound. But it was due to the scarcity of FX at that time that the bank stopped the issuance of denominated for foreign transactions, and that is not an aberration. That is not a mistake. As it is right now, that is not sustainable, and that was why they stopped. And the same reason why they stopped that, it is the same problem we've been unable to resolve and find a solution to up to now. How can we as a nation, have an economy that is not production driven? We'll be talking of foreign reserves, and some of us who are product of history over time to realize and pinpoint the foreign reserve of Nigeria as at 2015, the state of the foreign reserves as at 2019, and our current state of our foreign reserves. Once our foreign reserves is completely depleted, automatically there will be resultant effects on, our effects and the amount of money that we're going to have, so as to service our foreign transactions. And that is what we did right now. Over time and now, we are beginning to say, okay, we want to try to diversify our economy. We don't want us to only be, oil-driven economy. We want to see how we can sustain the other production sector of this economy. Once the production sector are not properly stimulated, and once we are still, depending on foreign materials, foreign goods, once we are import dependent, we cannot sustain our efforts. Government cannot continually inject billions of dollars so as to stimulate the economy, in which after 1 or 2 weeks, some set of people are there to siphon the little resources that's going to be injected into the system. And again, automatic scarcity of FS will also play out, which will resultantly also put pressure on the limited FS in circulation, and citizens will have to resort to black market and all of that. And one of the fundamental mistakes this government also made, which some applauded, was the collapse of the window into IRE. I said it over time. A winning buyer, a winning seller. It's like making it in such a way that that market is now being, they felt, okay, they don't want to monopolize it. But indirectly, it is now making that scarcity, it is now putting pressure on FX in such a way that, the amount of money you can get from Israel, if you go to also to your bank, you have just little variation. So people will feel, why do I need to wait in the bank for 10 days or 12 days to get my FX transaction done when I can also get, from other sources and get this transaction to be consummated within 1 or 2 days? We are thinking, if you are doing an IE window, customers need to quote the amount of, the rate in which they want their transaction to be consummated. And it is now a function of if they are able to see buyer in that, to meet that need. And if they cannot see buyer to meet that need, they might need to quote a higher figure. So in that system, it's just changing people who are dictating who are dictating how FS was playing out compared to what we had last year to what we are having currently. So invariably it is not the solution to the FS problem. Once we are still a consuming nation, once our economy and our environment is not stimulating the growth of manufacturing sector, once we are not building an human capital development, we continue to have FS problem. We continue to have problems. When even the toothpick that we have in our different houses have to be imported, when we have even fabrics that we have to be imported, when we have a little items that could be produced locally, then we have to import everything. And when we are making importation, we forgot that fact. Even the same government have a form Q, which is meant for customers or citizens who are importing items into this country. And again, when they also open, the window of some items that could also be imported and exported in the country, they are forgetting that fact. That once you import a single item into this country, you have to make remittance of those items in foreign exchange. And while making remittance of these items in foreign exchange, we're also putting pressure, for citizens looking for foreign exchange, settle payment for this transaction. So in that, we have an economy that is not balanced. We have an economy that, we have leaders who are not properly sitting down to look at the remote causes. And they say that they don't know that production, stimulating a production sector, manufacturing sector, we add or we, put ease the pressure on the naira. But we have leaders who understand. We have leaders who are economists. We have leaders who are, who understand how things are being run in the foreign nation. But why is it that they cannot replicate those strategies to ease the life of citizens in the country? That is the question we are still begging to get answered. Is it that our leaders are not deliberate? Is it that they don't have the wherewithal? Is it the will that they don't have to actually put, solutions to the big FS market in Nigeria? For now, I want to relax and, take a back seat and listen to some of our other leaders on this platform. Thank you, Mr. Convener. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, yes, yes, Convener. Yes, I'm here, but please permit me. Yes, please permit me to talk in a moment, please. I'll be right back.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Please, I'll be right back to share my thoughts, please. Just in a moment, please. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, for me, yeah, the sergeant spoke from the point of the perspective of a finance person, so he probably has more intel in that back end than we do. But I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who, like, there's something I always tell people. I have never had cause to travel out of the country. And for somebody who has never left the country, I've never understood why I need to worry about buying FX. And the reason for this is simple. The policies do not enable us trade. We don't manufacture things in this country. I am simply an IT person trying to make sure that I provide services for my clients as well. I need hosting services, I need domain services, and these things are not available here. If I were to source a company here, that company would also be buying these resources from outside. So if I'm going to access a primary service provider, I'm going to have to pay in dollars. You get so at the end of the day, I need FX even though I'm not traveling out. And yet there is a policy in place that seems to only make FX available to select industries and select people, like you need a visa and stuff like that. When we talk about financial policies, it's as if there are select sectors that are considered. Sectors that do not necessarily involve me engaging with a foreign entity physically seem not to be considered. I use WordPress a lot. I pay for hosting every year. In all fairness, um, most of my FX transaction is either for hosting or for email. But I can't do it with my Naira cards. So even though I'm in Nigeria, I'm having to open a domiciliary account. I'm having to transact on it. I'm having to meet the limit. I'm basically having to meet almost the same condition an importer exporter has to meet. It's not making sense to me. Do I have an alternative to the quality of service I'm getting locally? No, I don't because I've tried it. The downtime is too much. It doesn't make sense for any credible business to host with a provider that gives you too much downtime. So, what are my options? My options continue to remain looking at an external service provider. In looking at an external service provider, I then have to get involved in this FX drama. And so it becomes the reason why you will hear the pepper seller says FX, the wood seller says FX, this person says FX. Let's be fair. If these people's business at some point needs them to sell online, host an e-commerce app, engage in some, maybe get an email service, they might be needing FX. And these industries they are not all covered. And the FX policies are not even giving consideration. It's as if we don't exist. As long as the importer exporter is able to import and export, it doesn't matter when people like us are just trying to host our sites and get an email to give us legibility on the national or global scene. Yes, these are criteria that are put in even by the government institutions. You go in and they ask you, oh, do you have a website? If I do not engage with a foreign company and you go to my website and it is down, and I tell you, oh, I'm working with a local company, are you going to listen to me? No. So for me, these policies, I am not a policymaker. I don't understand finance. I always tell people I'm not a mathematics person. But please, can the people involved in this decision making give consideration to people like us who are not really importing and exporting? However, the service that we need is not available locally, and yet we are not covered. We can't even go to the bank to present our invoice and say, give us FX. They won't answer us. I've tried it before. They still told me go and get your dollar from black market, deposit and make your payment. Number one, it doesn't work for us because we're having to get these dollars at crazy rates, and then we'll pay it to the bank to be able to do this transaction. It's totally unfair. Normally, one of our most common plan uses the $300 WordPress system. 3 years ago, it was $300. 2024 is still $300. But if you do the conversion to Naira, the price is very crazy right now. I've had clients asking me if they can downgrade because of this, and it's affecting their service. Now, this is a very critical area for most businesses, but it is one area that most people are not looking at. Again, I'll say this. One of the reasons online commerce is not catching on in Nigeria is because the back-end services needed to sustain online commercial activities is not something you can get locally. And the moment you get into it, you are looking at some businesses are running as much as $1,000 to $3,000 a year. And they have to somehow use backdoors to get effect because it's not covered. There's no way around it. So I don't know. For me, it's still not going to make sense to me till the day I am able to get emails and get domains without knowing what the exchange rate is. Because honestly, I don't care what the exchange rate is. I don't want to know. That I need to know just tells me that there's a problem. That's all.
Okay. Hello. Okay, convey now. Okay. PLIDE Joshua, Taiwo, okay. Let me pause. Can I speak on? All right. Okay, yeah, Taiwo, okay. Thank you. And sorry for just coming in that way. Well, the the SGI HQ spoke from a financial perspective, and PLIDE Tolu also. I guess she must have also spoken from a business or point of view. What I will only chip this from a layman perspective, and that is, why do we continue to have pressure on demand of dollars in Nigeria? Experts have continued to predict that even the rate at which pound sterling or dollar sells to Naira now will depreciate more in this year. It's about 1.8 today. Experts 4-5 days ago, even 3 days ago, they still predicted that it's going to go worse. And even by the end of 2024, it will have gone so pathetic. So pathetic. And I feel that one of the simple way that this unnecessary demand on dollars can be addressed is, why does our CBN not allow our debit card, our local debit card, for instance, to be able to buy items on our local currency overseas. Why do they limit, our debit card, GTB access, and the rest of our cards, they are only limited to being able to purchase items within our local area in Nigeria. There was a time that I needed a fee. Up to now, we still continue to have people wanting to travel abroad. And each time they want to travel abroad like that, there is always another demand on having to buy pounds, dollars from Hausa, from all of these people. And the demand, this traveling only, this study abroad only, places on our foreign currency, is high. It's too high. It's too high. There was a time I needed to pay a fee, and I checked a portal, the school portal, and I found out that the school had even approved that about 200 countries could pay, fees in their local currency. And among these 200 countries, I saw Nigeria in capital letters. And I sent to SecGen. I said, wow, it means Nigerians, would not have to go to parallel market to purchase pound sterling or dollars to pay their school fee any longer. And behold, the pound sterling I had in my account, immediately I exchanged in tune of over 3 million naira on that night. It was about 5 minutes information that I got. And I just sent about over 3 million naira. I sent to someone in a Nigerian account. I sent to someone in a Nigerian account, hoping that the person was going to help me to pay this fee at that particular instance. All to see that the CBN had blocked all debit cards. That despite the open window, Nigeria still blocked our local debit card from being able to access international payments. And all I just needed to do on that night, because I was equally afraid that the next morning, the rate could have also gone up. I had to change the money back. Don't forget that I changed the money from pounds to naira. I had to change the money back immediately back to pounds, which cost me, some losses. Just within 15, 20 minutes, I had losses. So I feel that one of the ways, this thing can, there's no magic to this thing. Nigeria is not a production country. There is nothing we produce. Ordinary toothpick, we are not producing. So there's no way we continue to rely on what happens abroad to get anything. But a simple way to lessen this burden on people, and a simple way to lift out this burden, maybe on certain people, is by just allowing also our debit card to assess some of all these foreign transactions in a way. They may put limits, but if you want to buy something worth of $1, for instance, in US, you should be able to pay in your own local currency through your debit card to access that particular item at that point in time, without necessarily having to go and buy $1 from one Hausa somewhere, who will tell you that the dollar has just risen from 1.5 to 1.8. So that is just my own little layman perspective. But there is nothing we can do about this thing. There's nothing we are producing. There's no magic about it. And let me also, put in that the currency, the fall of naira, certain people, certain political class, or certain people also are benefiting from it. It suits them. They are the ones in charge. What does a common man need dollars for? What does a common man need pound sterling for? But whether you like it or not, certain people also are benefiting from all these things. I said this one time when Tope Fashola was on our webinar. I said in all the primary elections in Nigeria, politicians spent in foreign currencies. They spent in foreign. A candidate abroad who wants to go for study abroad will have to beg to get 5,000 pounds to pay his school fee. A politician gave that 5,000 pounds within 1 minute to a voter in a primary election. Within 1 minute to a voter in a primary election. Where are this money coming from? Where are these pounds coming from? Where are these dollars coming from? So it only boils to the fact that we originally had those currencies sufficient for us, but they were ordered deliberately to exploit the Nigerian people. At the gains of few individuals, very few individuals. There's a time, I was somewhere in the UK, and just a colleague of mine told me that just, a week previous, he worked somewhere, and he said, Taiwo, could you imagine that where I worked last week was owned by someone who was a regional commissioner for INEC just for 1 year in Nigeria. He said it was a regional commissioner for INEC, not INEC commissioner, just a regional commissioner for INEC for 1 year in Nigeria. He said the guy was dishing money as if he was serving food. And he said the PA to that man told him in confidentiality that the house was purchased within the term of commissionership in Nigeria. Do you get it? So it only shows that whether we like it or not, we continue to discuss pounds, dollars, but politicians don't have any discussion over this thing because they are benefiting strongly from it. The better way to help the common people is, let us start by the way of just allow our debit card to be able to do one or two things. For instance, I think it is also going to serve some purpose or some benefits, at least to few individuals who will not have to patronize at Sabo markets or pounds and dollars. Let me submit. Thank you. Good evening once again, and thank you for this second meeting. Like the earlier speakers had said, some of the factors that have brought us into this situation have been rightly highlighted. We have the greed factor. Our leaders are so greedy, and they benefit seriously, massively, from these challenges that the masses are facing. Many of them, unluckily for us, cannot even compare the prices of things in the market. I was in a service this morning, and Pastor Adeboye raised fundamental issues, as to the issues on ground. He said, does the governor of Lagos State, let me not mention now. He said, how many governors? Let me reframe. That how many governors know or can say that they knew the prices of gari or rice, in December, let alone telling us or saying the difference between the price it was in December and the price it is now in February 2024. The feedback mechanism is not really there, and that is about followership, blind followership, sycophancy, hypocrisy in all facets of our national life. The bad or the wrong feedback is not there because the president cannot be in Lagos all the time. So, and the president cannot be in Ijebu-Mushin market all the time to see or to know the price of things in the market. He also does not enter public vehicles. So many times he would not even know the price of transport from Port Harcourt, to Lagos. So correct feedbacks has to be there. Another thing is, someone rightly said that, I think it was the Secretary General, that production, we are not a production economy, and this has to do with the knowledge that the colonial masters, have passed on us. May I quickly say that Naira has not only depreciated against pounds and dollars, Naira has actually depreciated, against all known good currencies of the world, including dirham of the UAE, dinar. It has not just started. I was in the UAE in 2021, and when I got into the UAE, then I think it was June 6th or so. Dirham was 130 or 130, and we were actually projecting that in some weeks that it might likely get to 140, 143. But I left the UAE, in 2023 May, and it had risen to very close to 200 naira. Very close to 200 naira. What is Nigeria buying in the UAE? What are we getting from the UAE? What is starting that they are taking into Nigeria from the UAE? So the government is not looking at it from a large perspective. We are a blessed nation, but we are so unlucky when it comes to when it comes to people that we elect or appoint, or people that find or that found their ways to the corridor of power. Africa must be Africa, and this is a challenge to the African Union. Nigeria cannot produce all the things in the world, but if Nigeria is producing gari, let Gabon be producing cars. If Gabon is producing cars, let another country in Africa, so that Africa can be Africa and will not continue to rely on some of these countries. Why does a Nigerian need to come and spend 15 million naira or 20 million naira in the UK to study? Why? When with less than 6 million naira in Nigeria, you can attain a PhD that can be useful for the world. So there should be, instead of relying on some of these currencies too, I have said that what is it that Nigeria government or that Nigerians are getting from the UAE? But of course, we continue to go there. Tourism, we have our people also, Nigerians who have their various companies in the UAE. So in a way, we are also relying on in the UAE. Hence, we fall back on the naira. But we have to be African. We have to be Nigerian. There should be, I suggested sometimes ago, and I think different people have said it at different fora, that there should be a common currency in Africa. So if there is a common currency in Africa, and that is what the African Union must work towards, and if the African Union cannot work towards that, but I think their focus is only on sport, football. And even the sport they are not doing well, it's only on football. So the ECOWAS must now come in, that if at the level of the African Union, they cannot achieve that, at the level of ECOWAS, they can achieve that. At least more than 15 countries coming together can say that if you can be producing petrol, we can be producing battery, we can be producing this. So we are not going to be importing these things from China. We are not going to be importing these things from the UK. We are not going to be bringing these things in from Africa. So in that case, nobody. I am in the UK now, and pounds has up, and the currency here has massively risen against naira. About 2-3 days before now, naira actually rose a bit, but today now, it has fallen again. But I look at it, I am not richer. I am not richer than I was last week. And I'm not richer than I was, 2 months, 3 months ago, because my pounds remain my pounds. Naira is dropping, but my pounds, 300 pounds that I had 3 months ago, is still the same 300 pounds that I have now. Because I'm not going to be converting it to naira. And because everything I am buying, everything I have to eat is going to be bought here. It's going to be bought here. So I would have no basis to start comparing. But when I look at it, that people in that country, Nigeria, are suffering. And that if I send 5,000 naira now, it cannot buy 3 family bread. So it becomes a burden on me. 3 family bread. Because 5,000 cannot buy 3. Yes, cannot buy 3 family bread. One family bread now is above 1,000. Is about 1,500. Family bread, big one.
Even in Agege, bread is expensive. Oh. A family of more than 3 would, at least if you are 3, you buy at least 800 to 1,000 naira bread. Even in Agege. That's what I'm saying. 1,000 naira bread is just for 3 people. It's not enough for a family of 4.
Yes, look at that. Yes, so look at that. How many people from here, whether the naira falls tomorrow or rises tomorrow, my 300 pounds will still be my 300 pounds. That is stability, and that is development. What everybody wants. How many people from here? How many British citizens, American citizens, Canadians? How many of them are going to Nigeria? Do we even still have exchange programs? What do they want to come and learn in that country? What do they want to come and learn in Africa? Exchange programs, academics now. Nobody is even the only country that is rated, even in terms of academics, in terms of exposure in Africa, in these developed countries, in South Africa. People from South Africa. So we really need to develop, we need to grow our economy. We need to stop relying not only in terms of importing stuffs into the country, but also our capital value, our capital values. If education is not good in Nigeria, the UK or the developed countries like we are now will not be bringing in doctors, our doctors. They will not be bringing in our nurses. So why then do I need to come and spend 20 million naira here to attain a master's degree? So it means that to them, these people actually know that we have the stuff. They know that we are highly educated, but that we are not blessed with leadership. Even in terms of election, our election in Africa is not free and fair unless a foreign organization holds a press conference and tells the world that I actually monitored that election and it was free and fair. And it was free and fair. So that even their opinion is taken in court, in the court of law, tribunals. They will call them, these foreign organizations. When they say the election is free and fair, then it's free and fair. So, but once they say that it's not free and fair, Nigerians themselves, they start going around and say that there is a foreign organization, there is this somebody that is sent by Trump, that is sent by Obama, that is sent by Biden, and they have said the election is not free and fair, so it is not free and fair. So why do we have to rely on these people, to say who we are? To say who we are. So this enslaved mentality is still there. Africa is colonized. Africa is relying too much on these people. I have looked at this country. I have been to places and I have had conversations with people. And I said, this country, I looked at the UAE, nothing. God actually did not bless them with any natural resource. But they are where they are today. I have also looked at this country, ordinary canal. They are making money from it. They will run boats. Ordinary canal. Oduasejira is there. Nobody is using it. So many canals in Nigeria that have been abandoned. Even in a country like this, they even make money from their okuorums, from the dead. Halloween festival, celebration of the dead. They bring out money from it. So nothing here is a waste because of the kind of vision that they have. I think in Nigeria, we are all old men, and old men will continue to have dreams, to dream dreams. Whereas these people will continue to see visions, and the visions will continue to push them. Thank you. I beg to submit now.
Yes. The one inside nylon, yes. Yes. One ball of pop yes. I live in Agege, not the high-end part. I live in Orele Agege to be precise. And my foundation works directly from the community. No meat, no meat, no fish. Oh. They are just doing maybe rice and stew or swallow and soup. Yes, and that has statistics to back it up.
Yes. Sincere thanks to the convener and the other leaders who have aired their opinion on this devastating status of our FX as a country. For me, I feel the pains of our people when they talk about the inability to use naira-denominated card for payment in foreign currency. Like the convener previously explained, and that is the transaction dynamics. When, for example, we buy an item on Amazon, and the item is, let's assume it's 500 pounds, and we use our naira-denominated card to pay. After we might have been debited in naira equivalent from a naira account, this money is held in a suspense account, and there must be a settlement by your bank through their corresponding bank to the account of that merchant or the dealer, in whatever dimension they need to pay. So it's also, we are still making use of FX in the remittance of this people. If I want to recall, some of us in the last 2.5 years, the CBN had a policy in place, which we call Naira to dollar transaction. What they said was quite simple. For them to encourage Nigerians to bring in enough foreign exchange into the system, when you get foreign exchange through this IMTO, International Money Transfer, medium, they give you 5 naira on $1 that you bring into the system. At that time, the essence was to encourage Nigerians to bring in as much FS into our system because, once we have enough FS in this system, automatically the pressure on naira being exchanged to foreign currencies will reduce. But at the time, immediately, I think when Asiwaju also became the president, this policy stopped. Currently, as we speak in Nigeria, you cannot have naira to dollar, inflow or encouragement for Nigerians doing transactions. And if you're now looking at the issues we have regarding our FX, the pressure on FX is much. One of the issues that is currently also ravaging and affecting us in the country is simple. Now, if you have an inflow that is being moved into Zenith Bank from UK, automatically you cannot transfer these pounds from Zenith Bank GTB. When you have an inflow that you receive into Union Bank, you cannot move this money from Union Bank to Fidelity Bank. This is also a policy that is not encouraging, the digitalization of FS in Nigeria. Once I have FS and inflow into any bank in Nigeria, I must be able to move the FS without exchanging it or without first withdrawing it into cash and send it from Zenith Bank to GTB or from GTB to Fidelity or Union Bank or Access Bank. We must digitalize flow of FS in our system. And like I said previously, once we are not a production-driven economy, we are still putting pressure on a naira in making payments for these transactions that we do abroad. I talked about POMQ. When people even need to import items, there is need for us to make payments for these remittances. And we are making payments in FS. Itato CBN is also certainly, manufacturers who get raw materials, who get machinery and some other items from these foreign investors back into Nigeria. Directly or indirectly, our FS is also still escaping because we have transactions that must continually be done for the economy to be stable, for the economy to be synergized and purposely driven. But we cannot continue putting pressure on naira for us to get these things sorted. Now, where we are, if our people now need to pay school fees, they need to do so many things. And I also talked about the collapse of our FS system into IE window is a serious problem. We need to look around it. Now, what we've done is they felt immediately this IE window was collapsed. There was tendency for naira to move from 750 naira, which it was at that time, to probably 500 naira or 300 naira, which was the clamor of people who so much believe in the current of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But where are we today? Naira is currently above 1,300 naira to a dollar, and some above 1,750 naira to a pound. So it is still not making sense, and we are not still getting it right. We need to ensure that we make our FS flexible. We need to encourage production. Even I remember the convener asking that simple question: that why can't we, be making use of items that are produced locally in this country? It's a good idea. It's something some of us and somebody like me be proud to do. Wearing Ankara, wearing when you go to places, instead of you wearing jeans and all of that. But another issue we have to look at is quality and the effective monitoring of quality in this country. We've seen cases in recent time, in the last 2 months, where people are producing malt, they were producing bottled coke, they were producing so many materials at their backyard. These things also have health implications on Nigerians. And many of these practices by our people in the country have also lessened, the credibility of us relying majorly on local items. Many of them are completely inferior. If they are not inferior, they'll be injurious to our heads. And because of this, the attention has now been shifted from our local production, our local items to foreign goods. We need to look, our government needs to look in depth. It's a good way to ensure that rather than people buying champagne, buy NSC, we should be drinking palm wine. I saw the news, I saw one of the advice written by Reno Omokri a few days ago, saying that people should just shift their attention from putting so much emphasis on items that are produced abroad or foreign to local production items. Fantastic. But nevertheless, we need to look beyond all of that. The certain sector that can save us from this financial impact is our production and manufacturing sector. And if you remember, our economy is currently not supporting the thriving and the prosperity of those sectors. Many of our people can no longer sustain their businesses. Many of our people who are into businesses can no longer, get enough income or even the manpower that is going to ensure the prosperity and sustenance of this. And if you also forget that part, there are many of these businesses were also saying who will produce enough of items for us to export also rely on raw materials that are also going to be imported into the country. So our problem are dry. So I think we need leaders who are thinkers. We need leaders who are sincerely genuine and who will be ready, to put what it takes for them to stabilize this economy. They should not forget that part. That the problem with FS is also resulting to inflation, it's resulting to hardship, and it also causing poverty for our people in the country. We are crying. All of us are crying. Like Tolu was giving analysis of items being bought. A sachet of bottled water is currently sold for 1,600, 1,000. A bottle of Coca-Cola is currently sold for 200 naira. I got one a few days ago. So Nigerians are not smiling. Things are difficult. Things are hard. We should not forget that fact that FS directly or indirectly, stimulates and dictates the pace or whatever we get in a local market. It is quite unfortunate. You see a woman selling to potato or somebody selling tomato in the urban market who has no, relationship with FS. Tell you $1 because of increment in the rate of dollar, and this person will have to sell 3 pieces of tomato for you for 350 naira. So these things as a way of, changing the narrative of the market. Our government needs to put on their thinking cap. Some policies are currently somersaulting that we need to reverse. They need to go and give us an head-on policy that is going to reverse the dependency on FX in our current global system. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, anywhere you're listening to my voice. It's thank God for yet another opportunity for this. I want to make a lot of rhetoric, but the thing is just that ah, big English in the financial market is not helping us anyway. Because like my boss already had explained, all this big English does not come to the marketplace in Nigeria. The only thing is just that when the event starts, people got to know that even when people, for example, they have to buy something, but maybe today they buy it at 2 naira, for example, and tomorrow they just discover that naira is in one, even when they don't know what is the exchange rate, what is the forex exchange value and everything, you just discover that all of a sudden there's an increase, unjustified increase in the price of things. And I think everything still centers on government because normally it is not a private individual that is trading. This is a government established institution where there is a lot of trading and thereabouts. But I still think government has a lot to do in orienting people and getting to know, because I think our dependency on dollars is just too much. And this is what is really giving us the problem. And if you could recollect, everywhere, anybody here, there are people in the UK, people in Canada and thereabouts. Since I got to this country, the price of naira, the price of dollar to dirham has always been constant for the last 2 years, 3.6 dirham to $1, which means that the rate at which the government here they are trading on dollars is not as lousy as the one we are doing in Nigeria. And this is as a result of the volume of corruption of people in government. Because at the end of the day, you discover that when they are investing money, they are not investing to the tune of billions again. Because billions in naira does not have value to them. You see, they are investing money to the tune of millions of dollars, which at the end of the day, you could. Some of us in the news, at least we can still see that Abacha is still sending us money from foreign countries up till now. And this, like I said, and I will conclude on this, our dependency on dollars is just too much. And I believe and I pray to God that God will make Nigeria better. Better. Now all of us will suffer. Thank you.
Okay, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. All right. So, you wanted me to clarify the health issue, what I meant by the adoption of the pandemic. Now, the COVID came in, it was a pandemic, we had all the craze going on about COVID. I'm not on the table that says COVID didn't happen. COVID happened, okay? But the fatality rate of COVID was 1.3%. Now, we have malaria. Basically, till date, the mortality rate for COVID is still like, I think 200,000 and something. That's it. In the case of tuberculosis, in 2001 alone, the mortality rate for tuberculosis was 157,000. And that's despite the best efforts of the healthcare sector, because tuberculosis is one area that the healthcare sector has focused on. I became aware of it because we've had children who lost their parents. We're having children being orphaned by tuberculosis. So it is one of and I'm not, sometimes when we talk, people want to regionalize. Tuberculosis is in the southwest. People have it. It's in the southwest, it's in the north, it's everywhere. So we're giving national figures here. Again, we want to look at malaria. The malaria goes in millions. In a year, we have close to 200,000 deaths. In 2021, we had 194,000 deaths, and we had 68 million cases. When you're talking about malaria cases, you're talking in tens of millions. And when you're talking about mortality, when it comes to malaria, you're talking in hundreds of thousands. And we're talking year in, year out. And so you wonder how COVID, it's a pandemic from somewhere. We were able to take appropriate measures, contain it, take necessary measures. But at the end of the day, when we look at it in relationship to the actual situation on ground, how many cases of COVID did we have? What was the death rate? How did it end up becoming, getting so much allocation, getting so much funding when malaria could not get that much? There are countries that malaria is our top case in Nigeria. Go check this on World Health Organization sites, on any site you want to. And we have other countries looking at eliminating malaria. We have money being invested into eliminating malaria, but not in Nigeria. We have countries working on malaria vaccines, not in Nigeria. Do you know how much ACT, which is supposed to be like the cheapest malaria treatment right now, is costing people? I was in the hospital recently. I'm lucky I'm on an HMO. But people were buying malaria medicine for 1,007. I was with a parent who, the child had malaria. She came in, did the viral test and everything. I was like, she can't afford the malaria treatment. She'll go and do a book. On one hand, we're talking about effects. On the other hand, what's affecting the cost of these drugs? What's affecting the access to healthcare? Is that a foreign issue? That's a local issue. We're not solving that problem. We are focused on this effect thing, which is directly impacting the cost of drugs, the cost of healthcare, and reducing the volume of people who actually have access to the very limited healthcare that we have. Now, that is it on the COVID. That's why I said COVID is an adopted pandemic. By the definition of pandemic, COVID was not a Nigerian pandemic. Malaria is a Nigerian pandemic by the very definition of it's not COVID. In fact, cancer is rising faster than COVID. And I'm not seeing the effort. World Cancer Day, February 4th. What information does anybody have? It's World Cancer Day. How many people are even aware? When the government did said they should do vaccination of cervical cancer, most people didn't even know what they were talking about. So when it comes to the issue of, that's why when somebody mentioned international organizations defining what we need, they don't even know what we need. Let us be clear. They had COVID there. We had malaria here. We made COVID the pandemic. What happened to malaria? Do you get? So on that issue, we really need to begin to identify the fact that our problems are local to us. Nobody, the solution in Canada and US would not work here because our situations differ. In Canada, they have all of them, they are literally on insurance. PLK, you can walk in, even though their wait time is long. In Nigeria, money for hand, back for ground, that's the way it works. And so this thing is a direct effect. Now, having said that, let me quickly address one other issue. We were talking about why tomato seller will say dollar has risen, so pepper price has gone up. Let me explain it to you. I have a farm, and I do frozen. I have an outlet for frozen chicken. The cost of chicken will rise the moment that I hear that the cost of chicken food has gone up. When I started this business, a kilo of chicken was 900 naira. Okay? And a bag of feed was barely, it wasn't even, I can't remember, it was about 2004 or thereabouts. As I'm talking to you, a bag of feed is between 14,000 and 17,000 naira. And a kilo of chicken is 3,500. We are still in the same business. I would not sell what I did not buy. If I'm buying chicken, a bag of chicken feed for 10,000 naira, the price of my chicken will drop. But if I'm buying a bag of chicken feed for 17,000 naira, sweetheart, the price of chicken is going to go up. It doesn't matter whether I'm spending dollars or not. If I'm planting vegetables and the organic, the fertilizers, the treatments that I need to get appropriate certifications so that I can sell my maize at a good price. If its price is going up, the way Nigerian levies and multiple taxations is going up, my dear, maize is going to go up. If the treatment that I need for my tomato and my pepper is coming from a company that, you know, the government keeps telling you, you need to get this license. You need this certificate to sell to Netflix. You need this certificate to sell to Unilever. You need this certificate to sell to this. Sweetheart, I'm going to put all that into consideration and increase my price. And every time NAFDAC increases money and the logistics companies, transport increases, fuel increases, I am a farmer. I'm going to transport my goods. I am a processor. I need papers from MAN. I need papers from NAFDAC. I need papers from all of them. As long as their own fees continue to increase in line with their own running costs, my fees too will increase. I don't know whether you followed the news recently. When you are transporting goods from the north, you budget your settlement along the way in hundreds of thousands. This was a complaint made directly to the Ministry of Agri. When foods are coming in from the north, they settle. As we are coming on the road, whether it is headsmen you meet, whether it is area boys, whether it is local police, just because you are carrying perishables, you don't even have time to negotiate. You will settle all of them and get to Lagos. When you get to Lagos or Ibadan, all the money that you paid along the way, of course, the consumer is going to pay it. That's why you can go to the market today and they will give you 5 tomatoes for 200. And you will go tomorrow and they will give you 3 for 200. That man paid more settlement on the road. Sometimes it's not even the cost of it, but by the time he transported, cost of fuel went up. We didn't get fuel in Lokoja. We had to refuel at Kogi. All that cost adds up, and they all come into that your pepper money, into the vegetable money, into the maize money. So if you think these prices just go up for no reason, they don't. I mean, at my chicken shop, if we get notification, Olam will call us and tell us, oh, price of feed is going up by 15%. Price of feed is going up by 30%. What am I going to do? I'm going to increase the price of chicken because I'm going to buy that stock back when I sell it. So that is how the ripple effect gets down to everybody. Farmers were at the Ministry of Agriculture last year to protest. And I was telling people around here, I said, farmers are protesting, Nigerians are not joining them. Is it that they don't know where the food comes from? We don't need to all go on the road, but we can make an issue. We use our social media to do sweat now. The same platform you are. I can answer that question for you. Okay. Okay. Now let me respond to that. Mhm. Worse. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay. First of all, I'm going to talk about the cost of haulage. What most people don't realize is that when you hire a truck to bring in your items, they charge you per basket or per bag, and they can charge as high as 3 to 5,000, depending on the volume you are carrying. The more you carry, the better you are able to negotiate. Or you will be shocked. Yes, they are going to charge you for each. They will count it. They will count it and they will charge you per bag or per basket. And depending on the state you are coming from, the cost can be anything from 3 to 7,000 per bag. That is one. Again, like some of the truckers went on a rampage recently, it was even in the papers, and they complained about the fact that when they are coming from the north, they also budget, apart from the money they have billed, there is a budget of 1,000 naira per bag for security to avoid being what do they call, to avoid being robbed on the way and things like that. We don't even know what to call it because the money, you can't even call it bribe. See, I've told them I said it's security. Because you are passing through insecure areas, you have the local, sometimes it's not even the Nigerian police. When we say police now, don't let us assume it is not always the Nigerian police. Sometimes it's the local vigilante. They create like some tolls and you have to pay. And they already know, just by looking at the truck, they know how many bags is inside. And they also bill per bag. Once you are a cargo truck, they know you bill, even for chicken, they bill you per chicken. If I'm bringing my bed from Ogun State, I pay 200 naira per bed. From Ogun State here to Lagos, I pay 200 naira per bed. So from the north, the cost is higher. Now you do all that. And then don't forget, when you now get to within Lagos here, you also begin to have some documentations, papers and stuff you do. You pay all that money. Then to even get into the market, you don't just enter market and go and sell. That's a wrong belief. When you enter the market, there is money you will pay. The product you are bringing has its own union. The general market has its own union. The region you are coming from has its own union. All of them, by the time you add them together, you find yourself paying extra money. So the assumption that, oh, I bought it from the farm gate at 13,000. That person that transported it has probably spent about 8 to 9,000 just getting it to the market. And at the end of the day, is most likely selling at about 1,000 naira on each bag. So somebody knowing the farm gate price, have you tried sending? I don't know, some of our members there would have had it. If you have to send something through these transporters. Just carry maybe your child's school bag and say, okay, I'm in Lagos, I want to send you to Abuja, and listen to the prices they will quote. For you to know that at the end of the day, the bulk of the difference falls on transportation and security. And then the rest of it goes to also getting access to the market. At the end of the day, when your product enters the market, and I think I've mentioned this as one of our past seminars before, if you enter a market and your goodies, maybe by the time you got to the market, you got it 13,000. And then when you enter the market, it's 21,000. You now tell them in the market that you want to sell it for maybe 23,000. The market people, the administrators in the market, those about Jati, will now tell you that in this market, they won't buy it for more than 20,000. Don't forget that you've already incurred cost of about 21,000. If you don't sell to them, you can't carry that truck out of the market. They will tell you that the truck has entered, you will negotiate. Don't forget it's perishable. And so the person, the farmer who has gotten to the market, is now forced to start negotiating and explaining the cost to these market people and justifying his 23,000. If he's lucky, they will now tell him, okay, with all your explanation, you can't just hike the price though. So you will do 21,500, you will make 500. That's what the farmer is making. From my own experience, there are very few farmers who make more up to 5,000 on one bag, except you are lucky and you bought it when it is cheap. And by the time you get at a cheap price, and then by the time you get to Lagos, price is high. Except for that, most farmers sell at 1,000 to 2,000 naira on top of their cost, especially when they are bulk, large-scale farmers like the one you are talking about. They do 1,000, 2,000 on top of a bag. It is not the people in the market that can decide what they want to do. And in most cases, Nigerian markets are more organized than people think. The Yauja is not there for decoration. When you enter the market, if you are trying to sell something of 5,000 for 10,000, they will come and meet you that is not possible. There is union for farmers, there is union for marketers. They will confront you and tell you, come, this thing is meant to be this price. Why are you bringing it into a market at this price? So the consumer that is assuming that, oh, the farmer is making so much profit is an assumption. The logistics between the farm gate and the market sometimes is higher than the cost of the product. That's the reality. If there was a time we had to source chicken from a far distance, Akure side, we had to rent a cooling van. We had to rent a cooling van to transport from Akure. And this is because I don't do foreign chicken. I only do Nigerian chicken. We had to hire a cooling van from Akure to Lagos. Now, if I get to Lagos, of course, the price came up. I increased my price. I can't sell what I didn't buy. And when people asked me, I told them, I said, there was no chicken nearby. I had to go and get from Akure. And we had to do group and rent a cooling van to even cut the cost to this price. Do you get my point? So it is a mere assumption. There is no farmer making 10K when you are not selling cow. There is no farmer making 10K on the stack of any product. Most of those market women, sometimes they are just trying to retain customers. When the price goes up, people are just trying to retain customers. That's the fact.
All right. Thank you, Convener. I was going to ask if PLIDE is a farmer until she spoke it
Yes,
out
I
by
am.
herself. That yes. I think that that yeah, uh, she spoke from a very informed point of view, and I think, like you said, we haven't had in our subsequent. The next webinar will be of help to us. I have a few questions to ask. Maybe by then, and all of the questions will just be: who are these farmers? Who are the real farmers in Nigeria? Over time, I've always, thought along the line that as at the time our borders were closed, were shut in Nigeria, Nigeria was not prepared for it, and it was possibly one of our problems. We were not prepared for it. It was just the same way Emefiele just wanted to take out all the naira overnight, to change it into a new currency. I mean, into a new design. So we were not just prepared for it, and that I continue to say that was one of our problems in Nigeria. And again, in one of our webinars, Convener, if you would remember, I said, even if we have CNPP as a party in power in Nigeria, the exchange will be same. Because every factor deciding our economy since 1999 has remained the same. And importantly, I said in one of our webinars, when Tokwe Fashua came, I said, we started having problems with this exchange since 2014, when BVN was introduced, that politicians could no longer save in Nigerian banks. So someone said, why is it that oftentimes at the end of the month, we have Naira falling against this, against that, when, subventions will have been paid to states, it's because politicians don't save in Zenith. The SecGen, he has a background in finance. You should understand better. Politicians don't save in commercial banks now, and anymore. Even their savings in commercial banks are confidential, strictly confidential. But for the fear of anti-graft, many of them will even prefer to buy in pounds, to exchange the same local currency in pounds and dollars, to have all these stolen funds, saved. So that, I feel, has always been part of our problems since BVN. I think in as much as the EFCC and other anti-graft, agencies continue to chase these people, they should also deploy more of their antenna to this part. Emefiele had all his funds in CBN in dollars and pounds. He had every fund he had in CBN. He had every kobo he had in dollars and pounds. And at the time being, he was the custodian of all these currencies. So let me stop at that. By next week, we'll go further. Thank you so much. Good evening again. We have really we have chatted and we have divided. We have been able to bring out over. We have been able. Yes, we have. We have been able to bring out over 5 topics and subtopics. From today's discussion. But I Tolu spoke well about the health situation of our country and about the agric, about farming. There was a while ago. There was a time Barrister Awokoya, Barrister Mrs. Awokoya. Yes, yes, yeah. You see, some of these webinars that we do, they are not taken for granted. So people actually take note of the comments and some of the things that usually come up from this, and that's why we are able to make references to them when they need be. Barrister Awokoya said that the value chain of our production, from production to the final consumer, needs to be assessed. There are criminal cartels at various junctions. And that is exactly the same thing that PLIDE Tolu actually raised tonight. In from the farm to the markets. In the course of that, there are people who actually exploit these farmers. And when we look at it very critically, we will see that instead of saying or directing the blames to the farmers, we should actually be pitying them because from the way it is and from my own investigation also, I know and I see that there is no amount of profit that farmers make, on their farming, on their production, that can actually compensate for their effort and the stress these people face from farm to the market. So maybe by next week, Pladatolu will do more research and will come again to us and have us discuss this thing deeper. We were actually discussing again, we were discussing about how Naira has fallen, some all these things, the fall of Naira, the criminal cartel in the value chain, all these things are what have continued to impact negatively on the Nigerian system. So I know that Nigeria will survive this. Um, we will have good leaders someday, but we have to continue to engage in the discussions. That's the only thing I can say. It's a sorry situation, but we just have to keep it going. One day we'll just have it right. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Convener. Yes, I want to sincerely appreciate our leaders and in-house panelists for the balanced analysis of our current problem in the country. Like we said, we are bleeding. Nigeria is crying. Nigerians are bleeding. We need our leaders to have head-on solutions to currency devaluation. Like Taiwan and a few other people said, our politicians are a major problem. Where are the BBC guys getting their FS from? There are so many questions they need to answer for us. They need to restore hope in the real sense of it to Nigeria, and that is what we demand from them. Our president needs to be hard. Our president needs to be decisive and deliberate. It is until then that we can restore smiles on the faces of an average Nigerian in the street. So I want to sincerely appreciate and thank everyone who joined us on this program this Sunday. And you should also try as much as possible to join us again next week, as we also be discussing transformational issues as related to the welfare and security of our country. Thank you, everyone, and God bless you all.